Well, there I am. I don't know where David Dubine is. Maybe he had a prior engagement and he might jump in here in a little while or something. I don't know. I've had no contact today, which is odd. Maybe thought it was Wednesday or something. I almost did. What's going on in the chat? Sass Fast Red, Madam K, Mr. DJ, New Flip Flop, New Flippy Flop, Viv B, H. Johnson, Raven Wolf Channel, Dana Green. A lot of people in there. Slay's Redfish over on Rumble. Most people are on YouTube. And there's Puma Spirit and Beer Break, Savage Lee, Newton Kane. I can't pronounce that one. That one's a T-Tarp, Nelio J, and C-O-R-G. I'm sure there's some other people in there. We'll check that out later. So, yeah, I don't know what's up with David Dubine tonight. Maybe he's just busy doing something else. I'm going to add my screen if I can, and we'll just get started if I can figure it out. Here it is. I'm just a little slow on the intake tonight. Or maybe I was too fast on it. I'm not sure. There we are. Interstellar objects. Spraying something weird, scientists find. Well, it's not really weird. It's just water. So that's the latest on 3i Atlas. I know there's a lot of stuff out there, crazy ideas about 3i Atlas. I myself have only found, like two things that I thought was strange about it. And that was, the nickel off gassing of almost pure nickel as far as the heavy elements go. But it's put off CO2 and what was that? Cyanide. And now it's water, they say. But it's really not that weird. I don't know why they say it was weird. But let's jump into the aliens first right away, since people were reading my mind there. Let's see if I can find the right spot here. Nope, that's not it. That's the $300 trillion crypto mishap. And we'll get to that in a minute. The Age of Disclosure documentary revealing government cover-up of non-human intelligence sets release in theaters and on Amazon. Plus, there's a new trailer, and we can check out that trailer right here, I think. Is that the one? Yeah, here it is. Let me just switch audios here so you guys could hear it. There it goes.
We've had repeated instances of something operating in the airspace over restricted nuclear facilities, and it's not ours.
These are otherworldly things that are performing maneuvers that haven't been seen.
There's a whole fleet of them. I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
This is so secret. There have been very few people in our entire government that have been allowed or provided access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis, but that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees. People have been hurt protecting and hiding this information.
Some people claim it would cost them their lives if they spoke out about these things.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
The Age of Disclosure, they say. For only $39.95 and 4 easy installments, you too can take part in extraterrestrial interaction into the future. And, you know, I don't even get what some of those guys were saying. I've seen non-human entities. What do they call all of them millions of animals you live with on this beautiful planet? Or even, if you want to get fanciful, you know, some of the artificial intelligence entities, as they call it, or maybe some of the new, you know, created in a lab entities that may or may not be out there right now, which I would point out you probably couldn't tell the difference between one of their creations and an alien if it literally slapped you in the face. I mean, how would you know what it was? But anyway, they want you to go, you know, get your subscription on or whatever, and or pay for watching that. And I guarantee you they're not going to give you anything new. Nothing. They're going to chit chat and talk about, hey, well, look, these are important people talking about the subject. So, you know, then it's important, I guess. I don't know. The Age of Disclosure documentary revealing government cover up of non-human intelligences set to release in theaters, Amazon, plus we watched their new trailer. It wasn't that impressive, really. It was just Marco Rubio, if you remember, kind of used to be like in there with the neocon people, and you know, he has his own little things in the past that I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. But you know, recently he's been working in the Trump administration, supposedly being a good guy, looking out for America. If you believe that. I mean, I haven't seen him do nothing that I've been mad at since the new administration took over, but I do remember the guy and some of the things he said in the past. So, you know, there's that. Here it is. Just imagine how the propaganda backfires. And I want to show you this here. Hopefully, Dubai will hop in here in a minute. All of the people that sell intravenous medications put their propaganda and their sales pitch out there this Halloween, but didn't really, you know, think it through on how it would look, I should say. So let's see here. We'll put this back on. I think this is funny. This is it over at Infowars.com. Epic fail. Look, there's this dead guy, a skeleton, and it says, get your medications today. Oh my God. I mean, I get what they were trying to push with this idea. Walgreens accidentally nails it, one person says here. The Grim Reaper is the perfect mascot for them, their discounts that you get free at your local convenient drugstore. Oh my God. I mean, just think about it. It writes itself, folks. Your weird, trippy reality writes itself. And this is one of those moments kind of in history where they nailed it. I'm sorry. I'm in a laughing mood tonight, you know. Let's check out the chat and see what's going on in here about these topics. What do you think about the Grim Reaper trying to sell you some medication there? I don't know. What do you think? I think it's funny. They kind of missed the mark. I think they're putting off the exact opposite idea that you would think that they were trying to get you to think in their nice little propaganda here. And then Trump right now, you know, he's been really burning the global warming worshiping type idea people there. So Trump slams Green New scam, global carbon tax. He says the U.S., we're not going to adhere to it. So there's that. You know, I could recognize a win for the American people once in a while. I don't have to criticize everyone for everything. That's good. Now, I don't know if this is good, but regional banks losing shares. Their shares are tanking with concerns about sour loans growing on Wall Street. And what does that really mean? Well, for my limited intellect, kind of means that some of these lots and lots of scams where people got loans for them and there's no actual wealth behind the floated money is now coming back to bite smaller banks that gave out money for different programs because, well, the money's probably not going to come back. So their shares are tanking. Fear or greed index. What emotion is driving the next market? Extreme fear, they say. Don't buy the gold. Don't buy the silver. That's what they say. Right here. Look, it's the S&P 500 and its 125-day moving average showing it going up. Doesn't really look like people are that fearful. It's useful to look at the stock market levels compared to where they were and where they've been over the past few months when the S&P 500 is above its moving rolling average of the prior 125 days. That's a sign of positive momentum. But if the index is below average, it shows investors are getting skittish, and the fear and greed index uses slowing momentum as a signal for fear and growing momentum for greed. You know what was funny is a few weeks ago, I mentioned that, if you were so happen to invest in rare earth element companies, especially a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about it, you might have made some money because they've been skyrocketing ever since China has put a restriction on letting anybody else have their rare earth elements. And why are they doing that? My opinion, global war. In which shape, I'm not really sure yet. It may be something that's not recognizable in the way, like if you compare it to the previous world wars. It'll look like just a long string of unending news reports containing fear for the general populations for the entire world. Imagine if you're over in China and you're, kind of listening to their news, you're probably, if you're smart, which most of them are probably thinking, shit, we're going into world war. And everywhere you look, you see the evidence of that. But let's move on. Cops, AI image used to false allege sex attack. Who would have thought that was coming? Photo of male assailant was actually created by GPT. So now, that's 2 weeks in a row running that algorithms or AI is being used in one way or another when it comes to law enforcement and the courts. You saw the kid last week that, couldn't help himself but to admit to a bunch of crimes to Chat GPT, which is not your priest, by the way, and is under no commitment to keep your conversations private. In fact, no conversations on the internet are private. And I'm sure you've seen the little scandal going on about the people using the hurdy words in the private chat. And now that went public. There's a good example of how no matter when, where, or on what platform, under which circumstances, if you're chatting or videoing on the internet, whether it's pictures, video, text, any of that, it's recorded, it's saved, it's metadata. So, now people are trying to get other people to go to jail using fake evidence, fake video, fake stories, fake people for a fake world. That's kind of what I see there. Pro-Hamas hackers hijack airport loudspeakers across North America, spewing anti-Trump and anti-Netanyahu slurs and causing delays. And this follows what I predicted for 5 years. I've been talking about it, that they hammered us in the news headlines with the possibility of foreign actors, foreign countries, lone wolves, nerdy coders and programmers attacking infrastructure around the world. And we saw delays in flights. We've seen drones hacked, and we've seen, that big scandal about the telecommunications that was about to be, terror attacked or hacked or whatever, or thrown offline. So at any minute, any of the services that you expect, like water, electricity, emergency services like police. So you might want to think about that if you live in one of those kind of no gun areas where there's really strict gun laws. Just think about when the lights, the water, and the food shut off. If they do, I'm not saying they do. Of course, humans can kick the can. We never know what's going to happen. And it could just be incrementally over 20 years before it gets horrible and bad. Or it could happen within the next year. So it's better to be prepared with this idea. But this article just goes to show you, yet in another of many articles, things are being hacked. Things can be turned off. War can start over fake images, fake stories with fake people. And your infrastructure is not safe. It's the exact opposite of safe. Kind of to quote Trump, there's some really dumb people running things that don't know what they're doing. Or if you want to go the Alex Jones conspiracy route, there's some really smart people playing dumb, acting ignorant, doing things on purpose to destroy your way of life, which, I have to say, I kind of agree with the latter. Just saying. What was it the other day? Let's see. I forgot what the other one was, but there's been several hackings going on. Just shows you that your infrastructure is not safe. And then we face this other problem of the plateauing population. See, everybody thinks due to the extreme lefties and the global warming weirdos and all of that stuff that life is coming to an end, the planet is burning up, and we're just overpopulating and destroying the planet. Now, we might be poisoning the planet. I could kind of agree with that. There's a problem with deforestation in some areas on the planet. But one problem we don't have on Earth is population. Population has hit its plateau. And now, like many smart people predicted for years, and I've been talking about it for years, that there would be this plateau and then the inevitable plummet of population. Kind of along the lines of the Georgia Guidestones that kind of predict that they need to reduce the population down to about 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. In other words, most of the planet would be, owned by some kind of oligarch corporation, kingship, royalty, billionaire, trillionaire, whatever it is in the near future. And the rest of the plebes, the peasants, the blue collar people that are rapidly losing their wealth and way of life due to not being able to get jobs because they're increasingly becoming not needed. And a lot of people think, that'll never happen. Yet the factories are starting to use robots to do the work. And those are the high paying jobs. And the call centers and the lawyer firms and the accounting offices and some of the tech, companies are all going to be reducing how many people they employ because they just don't need to anymore. Humans are becoming literally obsolete, like the obsolete man in the Twilight Zone, except for they still need us for something. So we're not right there yet. We're just building that future for ourselves right now. But from boomtown to ghost town, population tsunami headed for America that will decimate families and the country. And this is due to infertility or sterilization, however you want to put it. I don't know how you do that. How you say that? Anyway, the groups of people in the Western world and the Far East, meaning like Korea, Japan, and China, they're having multiplication problems, but instead are having dividing problems and subtraction, especially when it comes to their population. An increasingly elder population is growing in all of these countries. So you got Europe that's being invaded by outsiders who will replace them in less than 20 years because mathematics, but they say math is racist. So maybe you shouldn't, think about the math. But mathematically, they are kind of being replaced. And it's no fault but their own. not having children, taking on these weird anti-human ideas that humans are the bad part of the problem, because there's never been an overpopulation problem. There's only been a population density problem. Now, if you live in Delhi or something like that in India, or one of those towns that's full of garbage and human feces, I don't know, San Francisco, you have to worry about it when it floods. You might catch hepatitis or something like that, or get really sick just from normal floodwaters and having to wade through it in a nasty, already dystopic nightmare that is the megacity, or the city, anywhere in the world, really. Some cities take care of their problems and have good sewage and sanitation and waste removal. But there's an increasing number of American cities, European cities, and, some in South Central Asia, let's say, that have an increase in where to put their feces, trash, and all that stuff. And they're not doing a very good job of dealing with it. So in the Western world, the population is just plummeting. Why? I don't know. Is it the medicine? Is it the foods? I'm not the guy to tell you. I just might think it might be all of the above sometimes myself. The medicine, food, water, dirty. And we'll get to that in a little while. About the water, that is. But the Western world is facing a population crisis, but that's okay, because other parts of the world and other people are multiplying just fine. And, simple mathematics says that if you're an elderly population and you only have one child that's already in their middle age, that person needs to have children, and it'll take 20 years for that to even make a difference. Meanwhile, they've been importing people from other places that do not yet have fertility problems. Some of those areas do have other genetic issues like inbreeding and things like that in various parts of the world. I won't name anyone or pick them out, but you could look up inbred populations with the NIH in our government and figure out which populations those are. We'll just say that those are some of the major populations moving into and occupying European lands that will be outproducing as far as children, and have been for the last 5 to 10 years, where there will just be more children than the local population. And that's just the way it is. In the United States, we're no different. We're having same kind of problems, birth weight problems from American citizens. Let's put it that way. And in East Asia, places like South Korea, not North Korea, I don't think. I'm not sure on that, so don't quote me. But I don't think North Korea is having a fertility problem. They're having you're not allowed to have a child problem. And then the South, they're having issues. And in Japan, they're having issues. And then you come to the topic of, some studies are showing that young people just have no interest in reproducing or creating a family, because they've taken to other ideologies or other things of importance of various reasons. Like maybe in Japan, the reason you might not want children is because you're expected to be successful and join a company. And usually when you join a company, it takes up most of your time. So you have to build a career and build reputation and other things. In other parts of the world, it's straight up because they have taken on self-destroying anti-human ideologies. I'll just put it that way. From Marxism to any of those other plethora of rainbowed ideas you could think of out there. Let's move on. PayPal's crypto partner mints a whopping 300 trillion worth of stable coins in technical error. So I don't know what they're going to do about that. They're going to destroy them. And if they destroy them, and if they're created out of error, they're not too stable. Maybe. But I don't really, I'll be honest, I don't understand fully the whole stable coin market, not the idea, the market, on how it's going to be like a transition for cash. But I'm pretty sure That's where it's going. So you might want to save your change, because all those metals can make things. You can do stuff with the copper, nickel, whatever else you find in there, silver. Oh, just saying. The age of disclosure, we covered that. Let's move on. Let's talk about why we're probably not going to have disclosure, because, closest chance of alien life may be 33,000 light years from Earth, according to this study. Contacting extraterrestrial, if I could say it, extraterrestrial, it's fancy, was a mission that is taken seriously by astronomers and the scientific community, but not up until recently, really. You used to be scoffed at for these ideas. And I'm not scoffing at the people that want you to, give them a little money to watch their documentary that's not going to show you anything. But if you want to watch it, Ancient Aliens is like playing free on antenna TV already. That's how old the idea is, and that's how long they've been trying to get you accepted. It's now on antenna free TV, commercial TV, I think all day, every day for the next week on, what's that channel? Story TV. I don't know if you get that where you at. But we have an antenna channel that's kind of like the History Channel, and they play all that stuff. But this week, it's all about aliens, alien sightings, alien stories, ancient aliens, architecture, all of that stuff. Everything's aliens. It couldn't have been a human. Might not be a human. Or maybe it is a human. Anyway, a new investigation found that we could calculate the distance to the nearest alien neighbor by evaluating the characteristics of an intelligent planet. The closest alien species of technological knowledge in the galaxy could be 33,000 light years away, according to the Europlanet. The civilization would have to be at least 280,000 years old to exist at the same time as us. The new research was presented at the EPSC-DPS 2025 joint meeting in Helsinki, Finland, and the data indicates strong odds against finding Earth-like worlds. So, according to them, it's, probably not going to happen. The problem I have also with these people is their estimate of 280,000 years, when allegedly the technology that would make us interact with extraterrestrials on a simple technological level didn't happen till the last 50 years, or let's say 100 years to be generous, and unless you're counting ancient alien ideas or ancient humans with advanced technology. So I don't know why they would say 280,000 years. It's looking more and more like human beings of different kinds have been on the earth for at least 1 million. I'm probably thinking they're going to push that number back in the future on what it is to be. So they're basically just guessing at this 33,000 light years away number. For all we know, a different kind of life could live right in a non-Earth-like planet near us that we don't even know about. I'm just saying. It's just like anthropology. They get 1% of an idea and then push the idea as if it's fact, even though 99% of the information was never fossilized, buried, or is available for us to research today. Why haven't we found aliens? According to NASA, it's just because, aliens are bored. We're boring. Aliens got bored, or we're boring. Think about that. Aliens out there maybe just stop looking for other aliens because, like us, they tried for like 20 years and couldn't find it. So they got bored. They just stopped looking. It sounds preposterous, really. All you would have to do is find a microbe on another planet for any government or intelligence out there, and then that would be one of their top priorities, knowing for a fact that the possibility of extraterrestrial life exists. Then you would expect there to be habitation in all corners and extreme environments. Just like on Earth, we find organisms in every single extreme environment, including boiling water, completely frozen ice, all of that stuff. We find it. But anyway, let's see what they say. It says for centuries, humanity has looked to the stars and wondered, and just wondered, if intelligent life exists elsewhere. Why haven't they reached out? Now NASA, astrophysicist, believes the answer might be far simpler than stranger than anyone imagined. Aliens might have just got bored with us. I mean, we're boring. We're just sitting here trying to kill each other off. In another global conflict, possibly. So, they just got bored. Or maybe, they watched our TV or our entertainment already, and they thought, why would a species sit around and make up a bunch of data that's essentially lies, which is what we do as humans. Everything about us is falsities. All of our entertainment is about fake things, fake people with fake emotions and fake situations. We literally strive and live off the idea of fakeness, right? And I'm guilty. I love sci-fi. I like to think what if. And, if we were using it for the possibility of what if, and that's why we made entertainment, that would be kind of cool. And you would think aliens might understand that. But it seems like we just make entertainment to damage, destroy, control, and put fear into all age groups. I mean, think about it. You could go back to the beginning of TV, and though by today's standards, it seemed wholesome, if you really think about the intellect and the ideas that they were pushing, they're not unlike the same ones today. It's like people are upset about alternate lifestyles, despite the fact that this has been an ongoing ideological battle for all of history. I mean, just think about the Spartans. People like to think of the Spartans as these manly, buff, warrior-like people that had wives and children, but they were also getting freaky on the weekend with anything that walked. And so were a lot of the ancient cultures. So to sit there and go, oh, wow, they were super wise and they were beyond their times. They were so smart. I don't know. They were doing the same weird, if I'm allowed to even say that that's weird. Yeah, see, you can't even say or describe the situation because you might get in trouble with your ideas. But let's just say, as far as the animal kingdom goes, we're kind of outliers on our behaviors, and it's blossomed into a very colorful, strange reality that we live in. Have you met the Scots? I am a Scot. At least according to my DNA, they say. Anyway, let's move on. They're just bored with us. That's all it is. We're boring. They're boring. And maybe they just watched our TV and they think that there's all these other aliens on the other side of us, because we're always going to war with aliens on the movies. And now we're scared of interstellar objects spraying water because it's weird. I'm sorry. Anyway, let's move on to something more mysterious and serious. Mysterious spy balloons appearing all over several U.S. states sparked fears of covert invasion. But let me tell you a little secret. There are so many foreign nationals from supposed adversarial countries right now, they don't need to invade. Their money, their resources, and a lot of their personnel are already within your yard, so to speak. So who would even benefit from a world at conflict? Who would benefit from a world war? There's a lot of suspects. Bankers, war hawks, military-industrial complex, political ideologies, religious ideologies. Man, maybe ET might, benefit if we continue to fight on the planet and fight for natural resources while simultaneously creating programs, ideologies, ideas, and entertainment that's destructive to ourselves. Mysterious spy balloons appearing everywhere. Didn't we already have a bunch of, foreign spy balloons, and some that they made a big deal about on the national news that turned out just to be some guy's hobby balloon? You could talk to Greg's Green about that. He was like the first one to get on and say, hey, I think I know the guy that built a balloon or something to that effect. Turned out not to be the Chinese that time, but I think they blew it up, if I'm not mistaken. I might be. But the Chinese spy scandal that is rocking the British government. Maybe they should have been worried about an invasion from other than British or the UK origin people coming into their country and doing whatever they want willy-nilly. Maybe they should have worried about that. I don't know. I'm just saying. The Chinese spy scandal that's rocking Britain's government. When a British parliamentary researcher was arrested for allegedly spying for the Chinese security officials expected to slam dunk case, instead the trial collapsed. Why did it collapse? Did it collapse like that one guy that was hooked up with the chick? What was her name? Fang Fang? Bang Bang with Fang Fang? You know the guy? You know who I'm talking about. It's the dude that farted on live TV. What was that? Oh, sorry, I just moved the chair. You know, what is that guy's name? Swallows? Is it Swallows? I think it's something like that. Swallows. But anyway, he was basically on dates and hanging out and coupled up with a Chinese spy named Fang Fang. So in other words, he was bang banging with Fang Fang. But we'll move on. Let's see here. Christopher Barry, leaving court Monday in May, was accused by the British government of spying through the case, has since fallen apart. So I guess he ain't a Chinese spy. Maybe there's other things in the UK to worry about from other origins of the world that might be more destructive than just keeping your eye on who's talking to the Chinese government, because that seems pretty, straightforward. And you remember, China was wanting to build a super embassy in the UK along with their other communist allies there, the British government. I mean, did I say communist? My mistake. They said they have free speech there. I saw Stammer, whatever, saying we have free speech for a long time. But if you make a meme or say the wrong thing on social media, you'll get, as George Bush, the junior, not the senior, put it, a midnight knock by the secret police. You remember he said that on our TV? Over there in Iraq, we need to stop it. Those poor people live under the threat of the midnight knock of the secret police. And then we sent our troops over there doing what? Knocking on doors in the middle of the night, kicking the door in. It was necessary, though. I mean, for the soldiers being placed there to do that. But think about the irony of it. And now, in the UK, the people that beat the Nazis arrest their own people for thought crimes. It's like, what was that guy, that talked about the future being exactly like it is there in the UK with all the surveillance and the thought crimes? 2 + 2 = 5, man. Get it through your head. Math is racist. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did we cover that? Yeah. Anomalous phenomenon? Non-human intelligent life? I'm starting to think some of the people that are walking around on the earth today are non-human intelligence. Do I mean that they're alien to the planet? No, I mean they've lost their human intelligence, literally. Either they've been dumbed down, emotionally stressed, or have gone completely insane. So Albuquerque, here near where I live, took a poll about do you support or oppose the policy that prohibits Albuquerque city departments and employees from assisting enforcement of federal immigration laws. Now, according to our government here, we don't like that, and we're not participating with any of that stuff. We're not gonna enforce immigration laws. But if you look right here, 51% of the people that took the poll support this idea to, in fact, enforce our immigration laws, and 40% opposed. So there's like 10% of you guys that just don't know or don't care, to whatever. So that is a pretty, halfway divide amongst the people. However, clearly the majority, 51%, thinks that we should be helping enforce federal immigration laws. But I think they have other plans, like the Podesta plan, that's kind of out there and working. It's happening, right? Kind of a split in the union, so to speak. Left, right, or those 10% in the middle that don't know, don't care, or whatever it is. But speaking of toxic stuff, Elon Musk keep falling out of the sky, and I think that's, it's not accidental. These were meant to be temporary. Matter of fact, if you think about it, this is the perfect program, if put into action within continuity of government, is the Starlink style satellite release. In other words, if we had a geomagnetic storm, kind of like we're having now, but worse, like bad, like worse than the Carrington event or something like that, or an EMP or a nuclear blast, I don't know, whatever. Whatever took out everything. You could just roll out some equipment afterwards and shoot up a bunch of temporary satellites to get you going right back in the saddle, right back in control, right back with working internet for the continuity of government, working internet, working military command structures, because, they can use that internet to deal with whatever they're doing, including, but not limited to, a post World War III environment in which they would need still a network going of some kind, and they would need a instant, replaceable, temporary network, just like the one Elon Musk has already put up. Somebody's frozen. It's frozen? That's not me. I didn't do it. Anyway, Russia going after the gas over there in Ukraine. So the resource war has already started. And, when you start seeing satellites falling out of the sky, and not because they're temporary, but because maybe some other assets in space knocked it out, then you could, assume that it's on. Or we have a conflict down by the Panamanian Canal, which seems to be in the works. We'll get back to that. Trump administration fires entire agency during the government shutdown. It's probably a good thing. I don't even know what it is because I didn't get to read that yet. Is it still frozen? Great reset. Well, maybe it was just frozen for them. I don't know. But yeah, gets rid of a bunch more government. See, I'm down for that. I agree with small government. As a matter of fact, in the near future, I think it's going to be so small because most of the jobs in the government are going AI, just like the corporations. Mark my words. What is this guy? What happened here? Oh, yeah. Some more of this. NIAID director. So NIAID director holds patent for bird flu pandemic. I don't want to say this word, but you guys could read it right there, right? The pandemic medicine, as his agency creates Frankenstein bird flu viruses in the lab. And every week I'm looking at like 20 of these articles where people are making things that don't exist via DNA technologies. It's just Frankenstein. Hopefully we won't all just turn into Cronenberg soon. I don't know if you guys watch Rick and Morty, but they have a whole planet in Rick and Morty where they messed it up. Everybody's kind of, whatever. But they keep trying to push this idea here, despite there being a world conflict, of civil war. And they've been pushing this idea for a long time. And that's kind of what I referred to when I was talking about the Podesta plan. And the idea kind of goes like the left coast would break off, not officially, but just politically. And then states like New Mexico, Colorado, New York, and some of the other more liberal leaning states would break off and form their own little association. But they already have that. It's called the Democrats, but a different one. And then they would just keep using lawfare until things get violent and we are pushed into a fake motivation for a civil war. And I don't think Americans are that stupid. I think only the politicians and these weirdos in these elite circles and think tanks and different groups are the people that think that'll work. I think that most people in the internet age has a good, healthy level of distrust for the government. But then again, there's the other 40% of people that hook, line, and sinker for the Marxist, kind of totalitarian stuff, and they're out there calling other people fascist while pushing fascist ideas. It's so bizarre. They want to stop you from speaking, they want to stop you from thinking, they want to stop you from protecting yourself. All of the things that are against humankind, therefore, yet they're calling other people those horrific words. And now, according to the government, not unlike, I'm going to say 2003, I think about was when the public got a good look at what Homeland Security was calling domestic terrorist threats. And that would include like people that use cash to buy things like coffee, people that wear backpacks, people that wear hoodies, people, and I quote, that have bumper stickers. Bumper sticker supposedly was a sign that people may or may not be domestic terrorists. And now we fast forward about 25 years and we got political bumper stickers are making traffic more dangerous because there's Looney Tunes out there that actually want to do violence to people that don't think like them. Idiots. So I think we're diverging literally, mentally, and then genetically later as two different species. People with these ideas, people with those ideas. People that'll take the implant, people that won't. People that want the medicine, people that don't. People that want to use paper, people that want to use gold and silver. It's very bizarre how easy it was to divide and conquer the planet of you humans. Just saying. Anyway, but think about the preposterous idea that you should have to worry about what your bumper sticker says. I drive down the road and I see people's bumper stickers all the time. Obama, Kamala, Biden, Trump, Bush. I've seen people that still have Clinton bumper stickers on their car. I saw a Ross Perot bumper sticker the other day. So am I supposed to get mad because I don't like some idea that one of those people have and just get out and, basically stir up the hornet's nest and refuse to let sleeping dogs lie and just kick a dog when they're down because I don't like the way it's barking? Does that make sense? I think it did. Anyway, the whole idea is preposterous, but according to this article, it's getting dangerous out there because people, look, there's one for Kane. You remember that guy? Anyway, political polarization has crept into nearly every corner of American life, from family dinners to the workplace to small talk. Now research suggests it's even affecting how people drive. Road ragers. We already had that, but it used to be for like cutting you off, not because you have a bumper sticker. Well, it's a good thing, I guess. There's the Second Amendment there to protect your First Amendment. Bumper stickers. I don't know. Who's going to start it? If you've been watching the news, then you know that, Pakistan and India are having their issues, and you got Bangladesh or somebody. I don't know. There's so many skirmishes out there. It's hard to keep track of. But the nuclear family, including North Korea, is flaunting their new ICBM, able to reach the United States ballistic missiles if they can get it up, so to speak. Maybe we should send them a box of some of those little yellow or blue pills I keep seeing advertised on the antenna TV. Evidently, nobody's worried about nothing because they're just sitting at home with Friday plans with their little pills. But maybe North Korea can get it up. Kim Jong-un, armed with nuclear weapons and powerful friends, signaled his determination to stand up to Washington with an elaborate military parade Friday night that featured advancements and arsenal capable of striking the U.S. fresh from staking his place on the global stage at the Chinese leader Xi Jinping parade of military firepower. So they're just another of nations, a growing list that is telling us to FAFO. And we're telling them FAFO. So it's kind of logical to figure out that somebody eventually is going to FA, and then everybody gets to FO, whether we wanted to FA or not. Isn't that how it's going? Then Seth, military to create a new task force to crush the cartels, the brand new war on drugs 2.0. But let me tell you, I don't think this has anything to do with drugs. It may have to do with enemies of America, and cartels may be named as enemies of America or labeled terrorist organizations, which I would agree that they are. However, I think that's just the little plot. That's not the big plot. The big plot is the Panama Canal. And I forgot where I had a map somewhere around here. We'll get to it again. And here's Save the Ostriches. You guys know about the ostriches? Because I haven't read this. You tell me in the comments while I look for something. What time is it? I think we need to go to break here in a minute. I don't know about Save the Ostriches. I'm going to read the article, but I know I've been seeing over and over again in the comments, which I do read of our shows sometimes, and the chat about these ostriches, the government after the ostriches. I'm trying to find this. I guess I'll find it on the break before we get back. About how things are developing in the Western world and why it should matter to us. Anyway, we'll be right back after these messages. And I think I should do this here. Sorry, I'm a one-man band tonight. If you'd like to help the show, you can hook us up with a Buy Me a Coffee over at Civilization Cycles Buy Me a Coffee, or you can scan that code right there and join the AI revolution, whichever one it is. And also, if you'd like some notes from our shows, sign up for our notes right there at the newsletter. You can go to Civilization Podcasts. I believe it is. Let me see right here, so I don't mess up. Here it is right here. civilizationcycle.com, or you can sign up for our notes there, or you can, like I said, join the digital age and scan that code right there. And then we'll just go to break, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Something like that.
We've been told this is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alfa Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further, or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world.
A huge challenge with our modern food system is that it's devoid of critical enzymes found in raw whole foods. Destroyed by poor agricultural practices, overprocessing, and cooking, our foods simply don't deliver the enzymes and nutrients our bodies need for optimized health. This imposes a much heavier burden on our bodies to replace the enzymes missing from our foods, depleting the enzyme potential of the body, weakening immune function, metabolism, and overall health. The good news? Patent-pending Ensorb addresses this problem head-on. Ensorb uses VNI's proprietary proteasome absorption technology to rapidly deliver the metabolically activated multi-enzyme complex directly into your blood. What can Ensorb do for you? How about unsurpassed, enhanced digestion of your foods, improved gastrointestinal function, improved immune function, strengthened metabolism for improved overall energy and vitality? And it does it all with its proprietary technology that can enhance bioavailability and absorption.
Head over to vni.life/civilization or click on that link in the description box below. Takes you directly to the Ensorb page. When was the last time you could trust your gut?
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Civilization Cycle. And thank you for all the support.
Still tossing and turning, the modern world can really take a toll on your body's circadian rhythms, the internal clock. Hemplucid's Sleep Gummies use natural ingredients that are carefully balanced to help you drift off to sleep naturally and enjoy rejuvenating sleep all night long, all without habit-forming sedatives or melatonin. Curious about better sleep naturally? Check out these blueberry lemon sleep mushroom CBN gummies, reishi, lemon balm, valerian root, with full spectrum hemp extract that may support a sense of calm. Ready for a better night's sleep? Click on that link in the description box below. Hemplucid blueberry lemon sleep gummies.
Breaking! The Supreme Court of Canada has issued a stay of execution for the ostriches. Hundreds of heli ostriches remain under threat of slaughter by government order, even as Canada's highest court temporarily halts the cull and the world watches in disbelief. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Yeah, that was a mouthful. What? CFIA has ordered the mass killings of 400 ostriches at the Universal Ostrich Farms in Edgewood, British Columbia. The order stems from an anonymous tip and a PCR. Oh, God. That's funny, ain't it? So, the fallible false positive PCR test on just 2 birds that died a month ago. Tests the CFIA claims shows H5N1 avian flu. Weren't we just talking about some kind of bird flu a minute ago? I think it was. There we go. I messed up on the buttons. Anyway, so I guess that's what's up with the ostriches. They're trying to kill the ostriches. It seems like it should be pretty easy to get multiple tests done on each bird using the people that work there to do it, instead of having government come over claiming without proof that something is the way it is. One of the, I don't know. I'm bad. I like the animals, so I'd have a hard time eating the ones that I'm raising. However, if they were just going to haul them off and destroy them for no reason, I'd probably eat them, bird flu or not. I hear they make some good omelets, though. With those big eggs, that would be awesome, though, wouldn't it? The big eggs. Big omelets. That's what they say. I don't know. I'm just kidding. Hopefully, they would come to some kind of resolution that doesn't involve just mass killing a bunch of birds where they don't know one way or the other if they're sick. And even if they were, do they have to kill them? Or they can put them in, one of those big tarped buildings and let them live out their life. Yeah. For your safety. Anyway, in kind of Halloween news right here, Check this guy. Check this pumpkin out. I can play this video here. Legs, or you could eat ostrich eggs. You could eat ostrich eggs and have giant omelets. Anyway, here's another one of those ideas that I've been harping on for a long time, that you think that you might live in privacy, but you don't. And even if you're not taking part in social media or even using your cell phone or any of that stuff, if you have a Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi interconnected devices, which could be anything from your phone, tablet, computer, your smart appliances that you might have in your house, even your smart meter outside, they're all putting off a field, and with the right software, you can literally watch or determine what's in someone's home, what they're doing, or any of that. And I've been telling you that for a long time, that there is a 3-dimensional spatial recognition from AI and other things, if they're implemented, that can tell exactly where you're at, what you're doing. They demonstrated it long ago with like the Xbox and PlayStation, when people found out that their little cameras didn't just use the visible light to look at you, but instead they were putting off a field of microwave or of Wi-Fi, and they could determine what you look like naked through your clothes, but you could dial the device to look behind walls, through walls, and get a good 3D spatial awareness of you and all of your surroundings. The entire human domain now is filled with this. And here's an article that kind of articulates exactly my theory over the last 10 years about the capabilities and the possibilities of invented existing technological devices and breakthroughs that have been happening all around you. I'm one of those people that doesn't just think of a single idea. Every time I get a new idea, my mind automatically wants to attach it to other ideas. And what does that mean for other things, which includes any kind of scientific discovery? So if I know that they can do this with genes and they can also do this with genes, then I know that it's possible that somebody somewhere could be or is doing X with that technology. And one of those things would be monitoring you in real time anywhere you're at in the 6G, 7G, whatever G they're coming up with network, which is basically everywhere, even out in the middle of rural areas. If you have Wi-Fi, if you have devices or any smart devices or meters, you're within this network to be scanned and tracked. New Wi-Fi tech can accurately identify individuals without devices. Warn scientists, the technology can generate a highly detailed and accurate representation of a person's presence, posture, and movement, which, okay, so if I just heard that, I'm already thinking about the biometrics methods and technological abilities of other technologies, like paying attention to your gait, listening to your speech, facial recognition, retinal recognition, I guess. And a long time ago, people didn't realize that the beams that come out of these and the cameras. So, for an example, if I had this thing right here and I muted myself, you could take this video and look at the vibrations of this plastic, and a program could determine the sound in my house and what I was saying. They could use a camera or a laser to shoot through your window and look at a bag of chips, a plant, anything that has a surface that could vibrate, that can be detected. As a matter of fact, if you've ever watched that movie Eagle Eye, they demonstrate that basically in there. It's not science fiction, it's real. I've seen the real experiments, and you can recover audio from objects from video, or you could just shoot a laser, an invisible laser, infrared, right into an area and tell what everyone's talking about. So obviously, this technology can also do that. Let's go further. Researchers at Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, KIT, have demonstrated that the possibility It is possible, sorry, that it is possible to identify individuals using the Wi-Fi signals in their immediate environment. So, in other words, like if you're somewhere doing something, like you climb on a roof and say you set up some kind of illegal activity on top of that roof overlooking an event or something, there should be the ability to know that someone's doing that in real time. In the near future, I'm sure it's not set up anywhere, but in the near future, all of the Wi-Fi devices, cell phone towers, 5G, 6G, whatever, however many Gs they're going to go, your phones, your cameras, all of that stuff can be intertwined into one program to figure out where everyone is, what they're doing, what they have in their pockets, where they've been, all kinds of stuff. Unlike traditional identification methods, this approach does not require a person to carry a smartphone, tablet, or any other connected device. Instead, it relies on the way Wi-Fi devices constantly communicate with each other or nearby, which includes all of those smartphone, tablets, and other connected devices in the possession of others, right? So that means you may not have a phone and you may not have any of that stuff, but you can walk through an area and this technology knows what you're doing. And somebody in the audience talking about Army general admits using Chat GPT to make key command decisions, which I've told you in the past. They're using AI for war simulations, autonomous drones to figure out what to do. And eventually it's going to come down to basically this. You're going to have two basic blocks on the planet, and whichever one can outcompute the other one is the one that's going to win this world conflict. By carefully analyzing subtle interactions of these signals, the technology can generate a highly detailed and accurate representation of a person's presence, posture, which includes their gait. So you use that other algorithm to figure out who it is by their gait, and a movement right there. It's comparable with a camera snapshot, but constructed entirely from radio waves. So in other words, you can't escape it. It's going to be installed whether you use it or not. You could get off the grid. You can grow your own food and live without cell phones and internet connection. But your next door neighbors, the satellites, the trucks, cars, drones coming by will all include you into that surveillance network. Unless you find a way to jam it, which is obviously going to come next. Watch, mainstream interview covers up Ukrainian fighter's swastika tattoo. I don't even have to show you the video. But if you want to watch that, that's on Zero Hedge. But basically, he's the guy that's training all of the Ukrainian recruits, and he's got the tattoo. He's got the tattoos from the World War II all over his body. Trump may escalate the Ukraine war with missiles, says escalation isn't his intention. As a matter of fact, I saw him speaking today on this topic, and he was like, well, we have a lot of Patriot missiles, but we need most of them for ourselves. So he might give a couple. Meanwhile, Putin, who's going to meet with Trump later this week, says that giving them these Tomahawk and Patriot missiles is an aggressive act, as an act of war, which, if you've been paying attention, NATO has basically all but declared war on Russia. Russia admits they are at war with NATO, and there comes the United States in to negotiate, and hopefully it'll go better than the Israeli-Gaza peace arrangement, which both sides have already violated. I could have told you that. As soon as they gave the hostages back, what are we looking at? A day and a half of ceasefire, of the peace fire. So right now what we're having is a peace fire. That's the same thing that's going on in Ukraine. We're having a peace fire between Russia, China, and Western forces. It's a peace fire, just local skirmishes, little battles, not a full-blown war yet. However, like I said, the way Trump was talking today is that he didn't really intend on giving them many or that much of these because we need them ourselves. Why do we need them ourselves? Well, we'll get to that on another article. But first, Treasury Department surveillance at the southern border faces Fourth Amendment challenges. And basically, what those challenges are is with the new regime, our new rules, and this new war on terror, war on drugs, is situated along the U.S. southern border that is slowly turning over into a military corridor. But they want to know from the Department of Treasury who's spending more than $200 at a time. That's right. I said $200 they want to keep track of. So a new FinCEN role forced small money services businesses to collect personal data on nearly every customer and their transactions. Lawsuit claims that it violates the Fourth Amendment. Let me see if I can get this right. Valuta Corporation, a money services business, MSB, based in El Paso, Texas, has been run by Ashley Light's family for over 40 years. The first MSB licensed in Texas, provides money exchange, check cashing, and transaction services for residents who frequently travel between Texas and Mexico. Unfortunately for her, it happens to be in the wrong zip code because all of the zip codes along the border now are part of this new program that was put in March. The Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, or FINCEN, issued a graphic target order, GTO, that quietly turned MSB along with other U.S.-Mexican border into a surveillance hubs. Basically, they want to keep track of everything that you do that's a cash transaction from Texas to California that's over $200. So you can't send money to your people innocently. You can't send it to anybody or receive it without the government knowing about it. But like I said, there is nothing private. Maybe if you hand it off in silver coins or cash in person, you can transfer $200 without big brother, the government, knowing about it. But this has been on par with the last 5 presidents wanting to, mention or suggest that cash is outdated and it needs to end. And they've come up with all kinds of reasons. It's used to do crime. It's dirty. It could spread disease. And it's easy to counterfeit, which I got to admit, I've seen along the southern border more than the statistically possible. I've come across counterfeit fake money, which screws people because, they go buy something from a yard sale or go to the store or whatever. And if it's caught, then whoever gets caught, despite not trying to pass fake money or doing anything like that, they're out the money and might even get charged with a crime. Let's move on. Speaking of infertility earlier and not as many babies being born in the Western world, maybe that's because the babies are just getting bigger. Or maybe not. I'm just kidding. Record-smashing mega baby born in front of horrified nurses. Why were they horrified? All asking the same question. Jumbo baby Cassian has become the heaviest baby born at the Nashville TriStar Centennial Women's Hospital in the last few months, tipping the scales at nearly 13 pounds. Look at this baby. That doesn't do it justice. Let's look at it full screen and just see how big the baby actually is. That's a big baby. Big baby. Maybe you just don't have 2 or 3 kids anymore. You just have one that's the size of 2 or 3. I'm just kidding. Little Cassian's Martin was born in Nashville. I ain't going to say that again. With his mom, Shelby, sharing photos of the adorable newborn in video posted to TikTok. She wrote, when people talk about having a big baby, like, I don't know ball, whatever that means. But trust me, I know ball. And there she is. Oh, man, I bet her back hurts. Ouchie. Did you guys see the helicopter crashing? This is crazy. I've been seeing different angles of this, And it's weird because this is increasingly happening in the recent past and probably the near future. Why? I don't know why, but I know the answer to stop it, and you guys do too. It's no more people flying it. It's all going to be AI. From one end to the other, it's going to be AI in the skies, just like the PNAC, or the Project for the North American Century, or what is it? Project for the New Century, whatever. The Project for a New American Century. Yeah, I think that's right. PNAC and all those guys with the PNAC. What a weird name. Anyway, they stated back in late 90s, before 9/11, that by 2025, the Air Force and some of their other stuff would be mostly AI or totally AI. And we're rapidly approaching that mark in 2025. But we're not the only ones. Pakistan conducts airstrike in Afghanistan's Kandahar. Afghan and Pakistan official says, I don't think their peace fire is going to last. Obviously not, but that's happening everywhere. And speaking of things falling out of the sky, here's Mitch McConnell. Just can't even walk. Poor guy can't even walk, which makes you wonder why people are allowed to stay in office for 40 years or more while they become multi-billionaires or multi-millionaires. And where did they get all that money from? Because obviously we're not paying that as a salary. And, I was talking about dirty water earlier, goldfish moment. But we talked about how it might be, I don't know, the food, the medicine, and the water that's causing the problems with the Western world and its need to replace itself and repopulate. I don't know. It might be stuff like, a message from New Jersey American Water. Dear customer, we're aware of reports of our discolored water in the Raritan system. Higher levels of sodium palmagranate. I almost said pomegranate. Used to treat the water. It's causing it to be slight pinkish in here, but don't worry about it. Just drink that pink water up there. Don't take lessons from the past. Don't do it. Just, if the water doesn't look right, but your authorities say it's good, go ahead, drink it. They say it's safe. Pink tap water deemed safe to drink, say New Jersey officials. I don't want to get in trouble, but I'm just saying, if the water pink, it better have some Kool-Aid in it. Otherwise, you probably shouldn't drink it. I don't even drink tap water in the first place myself. We try to not do that. We drink reverse osmosis water with no fluoride added, please. No chlorine, no none of that stuff. Just water. I'll get my nutrients from salt. Thank you very much. My iodine and other things. I don't need it in the water, even though it's supposed to be in there. I don't want the other things that come along with the water systems. It's not, I live in New Jersey. Someone says, don't drink the pink water, says the people from New Jersey. But I'm just saying, pink water, no thanks. Brown water, no thanks. Water that lights on fire, no thanks. How about water that comes out of the bathroom tap water, which is what they're showing? I don't know who's drinking out of the bathroom sink, but anyway, they say it's safe, so Now let's get back to World War III, and I'm going to share this video right here. So supposedly, I've been researching all week about Europe basically not having any real defense if they were going to go to war with Russia. They really, 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 really want to go to war with Russia. The only problem they're having is they don't have the weapons because, for some reason, after World War II, the powers in World War II decided that Europe didn't need to build more weapons or update their weapons or any of that. So all of these countries are dependent on the United States for weapons via the UN and NATO and just direct, sales from our military industrial complex. However, they're looking to a new source, and that would be Turkey, because Turkey is now got the fourth biggest military, I guess. I don't know where that fits in. I think they're talking about as far as mechanized military, if I'm not mistaken, but they are building drones and tanks and all of these weapons there in Turkey. And you would think that they wouldn't be all that great, but evidently they're very technologically advanced at this point because they've been using designs from both of their partners, playing both sides of the fence, Russia and the United States. So let's check out this video here. Let me change my audio real quick.
Russia is escalating its provocations of NATO, sending fighter jets into alliance airspace over Estonia and a swarm of drones over Poland. And so the routine meeting of NATO defense ministers takes on new urgency. The alliance must improve its air defense, especially in countering enemy drones.
NATO will implement a number of additional counter-drone measures that will build on and expand and accelerate our ability to counter drones.
Britain's Defense Secretary John Healey said the Kremlin must be left in no doubt that if NATO is threatened, it will act.
Putin's incursions into NATO territory are reckless, dangerous, and totally unacceptable. Deliberate or not, Putin is watching what we do.
To better protect NATO frontline states, Germany is also increasing its commitment.
We will contribute with patrol flights to protect the eastern flank, and the head of my Air Force tells me he is very proud to be able to say that the largest commitment of a European NATO state to protect Allied airspace comes from his Air Force.
But Ukraine has no such shield and continues to suffer Russian bombardments with increasing severity. This winter, as in previous years, Moscow is primarily targeting the energy infrastructure. That makes further arms.
Oh, I muted myself. Just muted myself. But even though that they switched the video on this for some reason, it's not the video I actually wanted to show you. But the way that Germany, according to DW, because I was watching a bunch of their reports and then, kind of watching the other countries. I've been watching a lot of foreign stuff. We'll just put it that way. Getting it translated for me, their posts, their Twitter posts from their defense ministers and all that. Europe has a hard-on to go to war with Russia. The problem is they don't have the ability to go to war with Russia. So whether they go to war with Russia on their own or Russia attacks them and forces them into a conflict, it doesn't really matter because they do not have the ability to protect themselves. They don't even have the Second Amendment or nothing like that, like on the basic level for their citizens to all have some form of immediate home protection. And if you think about that, the reason that the Japanese never invaded the United States is that firearm behind every blade of grass, which you would think European countries would want to do after World War II, considering there was a whole bunch of invading and map drawing and stuff like that going on before and after the war ended. You would think, I'm just saying, that they would want to defend themselves. Then maybe they wouldn't be having problems with other areas of their national security, like, I don't know, floods of people from different places that share different ideas than them, replacing them literally in the streets, in the businesses, and by population soon. So Europe has no other choice but to either militarize and build up and address some of the problems they have, or just disappear. Just disappear completely. But the point behind that article that I was trying to show you there was that they are now investing all their money over into Turkey, not the United States. See, Turkey is now putting out the war machine. I know a lot of people didn't know that because you wouldn't think Turkey of all places. But the problem with Turkey is they're both NATO a state, but they're also buddies with Putin. So it's kind of undecided which direction they'll go in any coming conflict. However, right now they're playing businessman, and they're trying to arm the other European countries with Turkish-made weapons, drones, stuff like that. Anyway, so that's going to be interesting to see how that rolls out. But meanwhile, over in the United States, U.S. Special Operations helicopters and B-52s near Venezuela expand the Caribbean mission. And for some reason, I lost the damn. Maybe it's on this video. Let's see here. No, it's not. Anyway, I wanted to show you where all of this is happening. So let me just duplicate this tab, and we'll go to Google Earth for a minute. There she blows. We'll go to this map I have saved here. No, I don't want your products. Anyway, let's go over here. Everybody knows about the Middle East and what's going on over here, but this is the area of concern, and I'm going to make that bigger here. There we go. So right here is what we're talking about. We have been building up troops here in Puerto Rico. Lots of troops. We're flying B-52s right around this area right here north of Colombia and Venezuela, blowing up boats that are leaving this area. And if you think about it, if we were going to have a global conflict, especially with China, who's over here, right? They just come over here and they need this. This is a strategic location, which is the Panama Canal. So you can't have people or regimes that are antagonistic or pose a threat to U.S. forces in the, down here, not in the Gulf of America, but down here in South America by the Panama Canal. So we're blowing up stuff here. We're building up troops here. We're going to build up troops here. We're going to build up troops here. We're going to build up troops. We already have a large CIA presence since the 1970s in Colombia, Bogota, and other places. We did have plenty of influence in Venezuela, but as you remember, they went communist with Hugo Chavez. Then he died from some kind of, real fast butt cancer or something like that. And then the Colombian took over in Venezuela. And now we're saying he's the head of a cartel. And we're saying cartels are foreign terrorist organizations. So we're at war with them. It's the war on terror, war on drugs 2.0. And this is probably going to be one of the areas, in my opinion, of world conflict right here, because the Chinese are heavily invested in a lot of these countries with trade and infrastructure and putting up, supposed scientific research operations that also, watch other assets in the area. But anyway, we're going to have to get rid of, and that's exactly what it looks like we're doing. We're about to put boots on the ground possibly, or they're already there. We're flying B-52 bombers over just to show them that, we're not joking around. If you keep sending out boats, we're going to mess with you. There they are flying. But we're also flying B-52s over the failed Israeli Gaza situation. So it's not just there that these guys are flying over. So as you can see, things are lining up to be very interesting. The U.S. military deployed at least 2 Air Force B-52 strategic bombers in the Caribbean as tensions between the United States and Venezuela continue to rise. So over there, what's his name? I always forget that guy's name that took over for Chavez. What's his name? Maduro. That's right. Maduro. Anyway, he's probably about to get regime changed. I'm just saying. And I think they need that literally for this area right here. So we can't be having, Venezuela and Colombia and anybody messing with our access to the Panama Canal. So we can quickly move forces from the Atlantic to the Pacific or vice versa in any incoming world conflict. So, yeah, we're probably going to, and I've been telling you the guys that for probably the last 2 years that the combat zone is going to be over here in the Western Hemisphere, maybe even in the Northern Hemisphere. We'll see how that goes after a little while, what we do with the Mexican cartels. But the unprecedented flights flew over the Gulf of Mexico, passed through the Yucatan, which we also have our eye on in Mexico, where a lot of cartel activity is, which separates Mexico and Cuba, and were eventually visible north of the Venezuelan coast. That's what we're doing. And if you live in New York, don't worry about bird flu. You worry about this chingon. Chingon ese. Don't get the chingon virus. Actually, I don't know. I'm not really saying it. But they say a living person in New York has tested positive for the chingon. No, chi kung un. I don't know how to say it. You guys try to say it. That virus right there, supposedly is, now we got a case. There's your new fear unlocked if they haven't given it to you before. And here over in the this is what I was talking about, the Gaza peacefire. Trump warns Hamas will have no choice but to go in. He says we'll, meaning the United States, not Israel, but the United States, we'll have to go in there because we'll have no choice and we'll kill them if carnage continues in Gaza. So there you go. There's 2 unfolding potentially major conflicts, but they tease us with these every so often anyway. But on a lighter note, literally, no pun intended, Northern Lights may be visible in 15 U.S. states on October 16th, which is tonight. So maybe you could go out and look up. Let's see what this little video has to offer. It's just a video of Northern Lights. But some lucky Americans may get a chance to view nature's dazzling light show, the Northern Lights, from 15 U.S. states tonight. The phenomenon will be viewable beginning in the late night hours of Thursday, October 16th, which is tonight, into the early morning of Friday, October 17th, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, Weather Prediction Center. So if you live in northern states, you might get a good look at some aurora borealis. And if you live in the southern states, it's very possible that if you point your cameras north, you might get photography that shows it, which is cool, right? We did that last time. It was all the way visible in New Mexico. We saw just a little purple hint down here in New Mexico, but with the cameras, the whole sky was purple and pink, very lit up. How cold, snowy will it be this winter? Well, I predicted already in the middle of the summer that it was going to be cold, and most of the people that are keeping track are saying it's going to be cold, but according to NOAA, it's going to be hotter than usual in some areas and colder than usual in other areas. So in other words, it's going to be like normal, like it always is, but different. It's always different every year. So where will it be colder than normal in 25-26? According to Gottschalk, whatever, chief of the Operational Prediction Branch of the Climate Prediction Center, colder than normal conditions are most likely for all of the regional parts of the Pacific Northwest eastward to include Northern Rockies, Northern Plains, and the upper Mississippi Valley. Where will it be warmer? According to them, California, the Southern Great Basin, Southern Rockies, Southwest eastward to Texas, and Southeast to the coastal Mid-Atlantic. So, they don't know. Anyway, what was this? I wanted you to watch it. I don't remember what it was. Oh, yeah. They're trying to say that the Earth is spinning so fast. Let me let you guys hear this. It's spinning so fast that we're losing a second, and they haven't caught up.
In 2020, the planet completed many of its revolutions around its axis milliseconds quicker than on average. That's a problem for Coordinated Universal Time, which uses ultra-accurate atomic clocks to meter out milliseconds.
In other words, they got to add a second, man. Time to hide the chat. What are you talking about, man? I don't show the chat all the time. Only at specific times, not when we're doing a story. or we would get sidetracked every couple of seconds. But I am looking at the chat. All right. So we'll just close out tonight with, the whole idea that we might be having disclosure, that we might be having world war, that there might be a whole new era, incoming objects, collapse of the magnetic field, which, by the way, if you've been paying attention to that, what is it? The South Atlantic anomaly is so big that it's covering most of South America, and both of the poles are seemingly migrating towards the equator at an exponential rate. So it's very possible that within our lifetimes, at least the older of us that have a shorter lifetime to wait, in our lifetime, we may see the magnetic field completely collapse. For how long? I don't know. For how little? I don't know, but it may be happening. So, scientists find hidden edge state that may lead to practical infinite energy. And isn't that the answer to everything? Infinite energy. Studying quantum phenomenon such as the quantum Hall effect and the edge state electrons is incredibly difficult because they occur at such small scales. Now, scientists at MIT have created an experimental setup that recreates the quantum Hall effect but uses ultra cold cloud of sodium atoms instead of electrons, with interactions occurring over milliseconds instead of femtoseconds. This experimental stand-in can help scientists further study this fascinating mystery of the quantum world. They're getting real close to admitting that there is 0-point energy that we can tap. And if we can tap it, then the idea of extraterrestrials is way more plausible. And the idea that we may have contact within near future or within our lifetimes is also a very big possibility. But knowing what I know about the government, that might have already happened decades ago, and they're just not telling you. Would they tell us? Why would they tell us? It's just like anything else. I don't think we're going to have infinite free, practical, infinite energy, because how could you bill people for something that's free and infinite? Of course. Right. Yes. My eyes, my weird eyes, they're green with brown stars in the middle of them. So a lot of people accuse me of being a reptile because the brown right around my pupil sometimes makes it look like I have snake eyes or something like that. That's what they say. Maybe I'm a reptilian. Just kidding. Anyway, that's all I got for Civilization Cycle. I have no idea why David Dubine was missing in action, incommunicado. I don't know why. He actually put up a new video on Adapt 2030 about 12 minutes before we started. So he's somewhere doing something. So maybe you can go check out that and see what that's about. But if you would like to help the show and you enjoyed the presentation, sign up for our newsletter. We'll put up some bulletin points each week. Supposedly, I know I've read that some people have a problem with not getting it. So put your email in again, and maybe that'll fix it or something. I don't know. We'll figure out what that is. But if you like the show and you like to help it out, please scan that little thing or go to Buy Me a Coffee in the description below the video and help us out. But that's all I got. Peace out. And, I was going to say, it's harvest time, but it's also planting time. So you live in the southern states, you need to be getting that rejuvenation of lettuces and kales and all that stuff going again before it gets too brutally cold. But they say you might have a warmer winter in the south. So you might have a longer possible growing season for winter plants this year. I don't know. I have lettuce literally growing all around my yard in a bunch of places. I didn't plant it. The place I did plant, it all died and I didn't get any. But now all of a sudden cilantro, lettuce is all popping up right before it freezes here in New Mexico. As you can see behind me, Sierra Blanca, Mountain of the Gods, from the view of White Sands National Monument, which is cool, which is closed mostly because the federal shutdown, but it's still open enough you can go out and play in the sand if you want to do that. Anyway, Peace out. And we'll see you next Thursday right here on Civilization Cycle for another strange look into the current events.